rumors of strange magnetic fields, time warps, and even alien abduction began to circulate. It didn't help that Navy reports on the incident, which were requested by Taylor's mother, concluded that the incident was due to causes or reasons unknown. Stories developed claiming that the Avengers disappeared over a particularly dangerous portion of the ocean. Not surprisingly, other accidents were found to have occurred in nearby stretches. The exact dimensions of the Bermuda Triangle differ greatly depending on the source, but the 3 points are usually designated as Bermuda, Puerto Rico, and Miami, Florida. The triangle's size is also in question. Reports and studies listed as anywhere from 500,000 to 1.5 million square miles. The area wasn't christened the Bermuda Triangle until the publication of a 1964 fiction called The Deadly Bermuda Triangle, written by Vincent Gaddis and published. Published in Argosy magazine. A decade later, the triangle leapt into popular culture with 1974's best-selling book, The Bermuda Triangle, a sensationalized account of mysterious accidents that had occurred in the area. More mundane explanations for the triangle's deadly powers point to the statistical probability of more accidents occurring in that area that sees such high traffic. The waters between Florida and the Bahamas are frequented by pleasure boats, which are often crewed by inexperienced tourists. In addition, aircraft and boats are also sometimes victim to short, unexpected storms that dissipate before reaching shore, and thus seem mysterious or fantastic. Still, whether or not the Bermuda Triangle is really more dangerous than other patches of sea, the persistent legends of tragedy have certainly prevented many a weary traveler from entering its dreaded perimeter. The enigma of the crystal skulls. Once upon a time, a legendary set of crystal skulls was scattered across the globe. It was said that finding one of these skulls would bring the lucky person wealth or death. The story also goes on to say that if all the skulls were located and placed together, they would begin to speak and reveal prophecies, including the end of the world. Could these skulls really exist? The history, maybe. Admittedly, the background of the crystal skulls is a little patchy. a successful career as a world-traveling antiques dealer. Bobin is believed to have owned at least 3 of the crystal skulls, although it is unclear where he acquired them. However, 2 of these Bobin skulls would end up in museums, one in the British Museum and one in Paris's Musée de l'Homme. But the most intriguing crystal skull is one that Bobin did not own. This skull was discovered in 1924 by Anna Le Guillon Mitchell Hedges, the adopted daughter of famed British adventurer F.A. Mitchell Hedges. Anna claimed she found the skull in what is now Belize, inside a pyramid. Interestingly, her father wrote several books, but he never once mentions his daughter finding a crystal skull. Professional jealousy, or did he regard the skull as a sham? Regardless, Anna claimed that the skull had magical powers, and that she once stared into the skull's eye sockets and had a premonition of President John F. Kennedy's assassination. Putting the skulls to the test. Since the legends say that the skulls were hand-carved, or a gift from the heavens, or aliens, scientists were eager to determine how they were formed. When the British Museum conducted tests on the 2 skulls they owned, they found marks that made it clear the skulls were carved using modern rotary tools. Likewise, Paris's Musée de l'Homme also found that their skull was created using modern tools. Both museums also discovered that the specific type of crystal used to form the skulls wasn't the kind available anywhere in the Aztec or Mayan empires. At first, Anna Mitchell Hedges was open to having the skulls she found tested by the company Hewlett-Packard. They found that the skull was indeed crystal, and one solid block of crystal at that, which is incredibly difficult to carve, whether by hand or using modern machinery. Interestingly, Hewlett-Packard also found that the quartz crystal is the same kind of crystal used in making computers. The legend continues. Skeptics dismiss the crystal skulls as nothing more than a silly story. And it is entertaining. Even director Steven Spielberg jumped on the bandwagon with his 2008 movie, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. True believers, on the other hand, firmly believe that just because the current skulls may be fakes, it doesn't mean the real ones aren't out there, waiting to be found. And say, once all 13 are placed together in a room, believers say the skulls will begin to speak, first to each other, and then to anyone else who might be present. But until then, the crystal skulls are keeping their mouths shut. The Smurl incident. In the 1970s, the Amityville horror ignited a firestorm of controversy that's still debated today. The Smurl haunting is another incident that's not as well known, but which is equally divisive. Spirit rumblings. In 1973, Jack Radios played, drawers opened and closed with no assistance. Toilets flushed on their own, empty porch chairs rocked back and forth, and putrid smells circulated throughout the house. Unfortunately, by 1985, events at the Smurl home had taken a dangerous turn. The house was always cold, and Jack's parents claimed they often heard angry voices coming from their son's side of the duplex, even though Jack and Janet were not arguing at the time. In February of that year, Janet was alone in the basement doing laundry when something called her name several times. A few days later, she was alone in the kitchen when the room became frigid. Suddenly, a faceless, black, human-shaped form appeared. It then walked through the wall and was witnessed by Jack's mother. At this point, the situation became even more bizarre. On the night Heather was confirmed into the Catholic faith, Shannon was nearly killed when a large light fixture fell from the ceiling and landed on her. On another night, Janet was violently pulled off the bed as Jack lay next to her, paralyzed and unable to help his wife, as a foul odor nearly suffocated him. Periodically, heavy footsteps were heard in the attic, and rapping and scratching sounds came from the walls. Not even the family dog escaped. It was repeatedly picked up and thrown around. Unwilling to be terrorized out of their home, in January 1986, the Smurls contacted psychic researchers and demonologists, Ed and Lorraine Warren, who confirmed that the home was haunted by 4 evil spirits, including a powerful demon. The Warrens theorized that the emotions generated as the older Smurl daughters entered puberty had somehow awoken a dormant demon. The Warrens tried prayer and playing religious music, but this only angered the demon even more. It spelled out, "You filthy bastard, get out of this house," on a mirror. It violently shook drawers, filled the TV set with an eerie white light, and slapped and bit Jack and Janet. One day, Janet decided to try communicating with the demon on her own. She told it to rap once for yes if it was there to harm them. It rapped once. Next, the entity unleashed a new weapon: sexual assault. A red-eyed, green-gummed succubus with an old woman's face and a young woman's body raped Jack. An incubus sexually assaulted Janet. Dawn was nearly raped, and Karen fell seriously ill with a high fever. Pig noises, which supposedly signal a serious demonic infestation, emanated from the walls. The Smurls could not escape even by leaving their home. The creature followed them on camping trips, and even bothered Jack at his job, giving new meaning to the phrase, "work is hell." The family appealed to the Catholic Church for help, but to no avail. However, a renegade clergyman named Robert F. McKenna did try to help the Smurls by performing an exorcism chairman of the Buffalo-based Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, the CSICOP. He offered to investigate, but the Smurls turned him down, stating that they wanted to stay with the Warrens and the church. They were also concerned that the CSICOP had already decided that their story was a hoax. The Smurls did, however, contact a medium who came to the same conclusions as the Warrens, that there were 4 spirits in the home. One she couldn't identify, but she said that the others were an old woman named Abigail, a murderer named Patrick, and a very strong demon. Another exorcism was performed in 1986, and that seemed to do the trick because the incidents stopped. But just before Christmas of that year, the black form appeared again, along with the banging noises, foul odors, and other phenomena. The Smurls finally moved out of the home in 1988. The next owner said that she never experienced who worked aboard the Sullivans after it was decommissioned reported seeing flying objects and hearing weird sounds and terrifying moans. Fleeting glimpses of young men dressed in World War II era naval uniforms were also common sights. One of the first acknowledgments that something bizarre was occurring aboard the Sullivans came when an electrician's mate refused an order to make a routine check of the ship. It was Friday the 13th, he explained, and the last time he had been aboard the ship on that traditionally superstitious day. An unseen hand had appeared out from a bulkhead, grabbed him by the ankle, and tripped him. More incidents revealed. After the sailor's story was made public, others came forward with tales of their own frightening encounters aboard the destroyer. Another electrician's mate reported that something had reached out and snatched away the toolbox he had been carrying. And another sailor claimed that 5 glowing spheres passed him in a darkened hatchway while he stood paralyzed with fear. In another account, a sailor assigned to work on the vessel said that he felt a chill and a sense of dread the moment he set foot aboard the ship. Within minutes, he was having trouble breathing, and he experienced an odd buzzing in his ears. I felt like I had stepped into another world, and it wasn't a world where I wanted to be, said the sailor, who until that day had never believed in ghosts. I knew there and then that I was never going back aboard that ship. Most of the supernatural phenomena reported aboard the Sullivans occurred while the destroyer was docked in Philadelphia. For reasons unknown, removing the ship from active service apparently triggered a tremendous amount of activity from the spirits of the 5 Sullivan brothers. When the ship was relocated, however, ghost sightings and paranormal activity slowed dramatically. Now a museum. In 1977, the Sullivans was donated to the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park in Buffalo, New York, where it was turned into a memorial museum that is open for public tours. In 1986, the fabled vessel was declared a National Historic Landmark. The story of the 5 Sullivan brothers and their untimely deaths captured the nation's attention and led to immediate policy changes within the U.S. Navy, which worked to ensure that no American family would ever again suffer such a great loss. The story of the ship's haunting isn't well known. Isn't well known outside of the small fraternity of people who worked aboard the vessel and experienced the brothers' spirited antics firsthand. Why did the restless spirits of the brothers manifest when they did what they did, and then quieted down, remains a mystery. With that, we'll be stopping for this particular installment. We hope that you've been enjoying our reading from the Book of Incredible Information. We do hope that you're finding it interesting, enlightening, relaxing, as always, and maybe a little spooky.